Welcome back for Unit 1, Lesson 4. We're doing video 2 now. All right. Again, our target is I can determine and create equivalent fractions by using a variety of strategies to compare fractions. So we're comparing fractions again to see greater than, less than, or equal to. All right. In this video, we're going to take a look at when we do not have common denominators or common numerators. So in this case, the first case we're going to talk about is, let's say we have fractions like 1/3 compared to 2/9. We do not have common denominators. We do not have common numerators. The first thing I want to look at is, sorry about that glare, but the first thing I want to look at is one of the denominators a multiple of the other. And it is. 9 is a multiple of 3. I know that 3 multiplied by 3 gives me 9. Why is that important? Because when one of the denominators is a multiple of the other, I don't have to change that one. I can use that as my common denominator. All I have to do is change 1/3. 1/3 into 9ths. Remember, I'm going to multiply by 1. In the form of a fraction. So my numerator and denominator by the same thing. To make 3 9, I have to multiply by 3, and it takes 3/3 to make 1 whole. So 1 multiplied by 3 is 3. So now I know 1/3 is equivalent to 3/9. Now I can compare numerators. 3 is greater than 2. So since 9ths are both the same size, 3 is greater. 3/9 is greater than 2/9. Let's take a look at that with one more situation. Let's say I have 5/8 compared to 3/4. So I look at I do not have common numerators or denominators. I look at my denominators though and I say, hey, wait a minute. 8 is a multiple of 4. I know 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. So I get to keep 5/8 5/8. But I'm going to change 3/4 into 8s. To figure out how do I change 4ths into 8s, all I have to think about is I have to double the number of pieces. If I double the number of pieces, I need double times as many. If my pieces are 2 times smaller, I need 2 times more. That way I'm still multiplying by the fraction 1. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Now I can compare numerators. Having 5/8 is less than having 6/8, so 5/8 is less than 3/4. So in this situation, one of my denominators was a multiple of the other, so I only had to change one fraction. So that's a situation. First thing I always check, if I don't have common numerators or denominators, I say, is one of my denominators a multiple of the other? If it's not, then I get a situation like this. 3/5 compared to 4/7. Okay? Do not have common numerators, do not have common denominators. 5 is not a multiple of 7. Nothing multiplied by 5 is 7. So I'm going to check and say, do they have a common factor? Let's see. My factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and my factors are 1 and 7. The only common factor they have is 1. When they only have 1 as a common factor, then I'm going to use for a denominator, a common denominator is the product of the two denominators. 5 multiplied by 7 is 35. All right. So 3/5. Let me scoot my camera down. 3/5. And I'm using 7 as my multiplier. 7/7. 3/5 is 21 35ths. 4/7. I'm using the other denominator, 5 as my multiplier. 5/5. 4 multiplied by 5 is 20. 7 multiplied by 5 is 35. Now I have a common denominator. 21 is greater than 20. So 21 35ths is greater than 20 35ths. So 3/5 is greater than 4/7. So when they do not have a common numerator or a common denominator, one denominator is not a multiple of the other, I'm going to check and say, do I have a common factor? If their only common factor is 1, then they don't have a common multiple until I multiply the two together. All right. Let's take a look at that similar again. All right, let's take well, actually, I'm not going to take a look at that. Well, yeah, we are. We're going to take a look at 7/9 compared to 5/6. 7/9 compared to 5/6. Do not have a common numerator, do not have a common denominator. 9 is not a multiple of 6. Nothing multiplied by 6 is 9. So I'm going to take my two denominators, 9 and 6, and list their factors. 9 is made by going 1 multiplied by 9 or 3 multiplied by 3. The factors of 9, the numbers that you can multiply together to give you 9 are 1, 3, and 9. Factors of 6, 1 multiplied by 6 and 2 multiplied by 3. The factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. I see that they have 3 in common. They have 1 in common also, but they also have 3 in common. So their greatest common factor is 3. When they have a factor other than 1 as a common factor, I don't need to use 9 multiplied by 6 is 54 as my common denominator. There's a smaller one they have in common. I know what it is. I know the multiple of 6 and 9 they have in common. If you don't, list your multiples till you get one they have in common. Multiples of 9, 1 times 9, 2 times 9, 3 times 9, 4 times 9, 5 times 9. 1 times 6, 2 times 6, 3 times 6, 4 times 6, 5 times 6. What do they have in common? What's the least number they have in common? 18. So I can change 9 and 6, my denominators, into 18. So 7/9 into 18ths. Think, what multiplied by 9 is 18? 2. So to make fraction 1, I have to put 2 over 2. 7 multiplied by 2 is 14. Whatever I multiplied my denominator by, I multiply my numerator by. Compared to 5/6. So what multiplied by 6 is 18? 3. If I multiply my denominator by 3, I have to multiply my numerator by 3, and I get 15. Now, once I have common denominators, I can compare numerators. 14 is less than 15, so 14/18 is less than 15/18, so 7/9 is less than 5/6. So in this case, did not have common numerators or common denominators, but I had a factor other than 1 as a common factor. So I could use a multiple less than the multiple of the two denominators. And I found out it was 18. It's more efficient for me to find the smaller or lesser common multiple because it has less chance of a mistake. So there are 3 ways for making or comparing fractions that do not have a common numerator or denominator. If you need to rewatch this, it takes a lot of practice. You can look in your student activity book at the practice pages that we did, or go online and do some practice, but also work hard on that practice sheet. It takes a lot of practice to get used to this. It takes a lot of why we need to practice our multiplication facts. Knowing our factors and our multiples makes it so much easier. Good luck.